This is Mike Mozart. My artist name is MiMo. But all of my friends and family and people that have followed my live shows have known my real first name is Wolfgang, or Wolfie, or Wolf. And the reason I'm saying that right now is I'm going to show you quite a few pieces of artwork I did since I was a little boy. Starting with a book I wrote about myself. I wrote an autobiography called My Story when I was 6 years old, and I'm going to read it to you and show you other artwork that I created up until about the time I was 12. And this is part of a big documentary that's being filmed now, and this artwork is all over the place. They really decimated this place over the last few days, and all I want to do is get back to finishing all these lingering paintings I have since before the pandemic, and I've been working feverishly on them. But before I packed it all in, I wanted to show you some, and I'm going to make a much longer, better video than this. I just wanted my fans and friends to know all about this cool stuff. This is MiMo, Mike Mozart, and due to the documentary that's being filmed on me right now, I've had to bring out boxes and boxes and boxes of artwork from my entire life, going back until I was 6 years old. I actually have earlier artwork than this. I just haven't gone through enough boxes yet. There's so much of it. But this is a good sampling. It's good representative sampling of what my artwork is, and some odd explanations about why some of my art looks the way it does and why I'm so enamored with metal flakes. So it starts here. This is the oldest thing that I have found so far in all these boxes. These are from my grandmother's house. Remember, she asked me to put my age after my signature because she saved these things and she wanted a record of how old I was. So you'll see my real first name is Wolfgang. So Wolf, age 6. Wolf, age 7. And people call me Wolfie. Usually if I did artwork for friends, I would put Wolfie. And they pronounce it Wolfie or Wolf. So this is a book. Now, since I was 6 years old, always wanted to be an artist of books. And almost all my artwork I created a book out of it. It's so crazy how much of the stuff I have. So this is my story. Look, I have a table of contents in here. My baby story, my first party, my first trip. And all the way up to kindergarten. This is really wild to look at this and think, wow, my life story, this really is reaching back in time to when I was 6 years old. And there is a miscellaneous party here. I don't know why that picture of a party was glued in, I don't remember. And these were glued in with something called mucilage that actually seeped through the paper and stained the artwork because it wasn't exactly conservation quality at the time. But here, let's take a look. It's not bad. We'll go here. My baby story. I was born in 1962. I bit my father's finger so bad, he put me to bed. My mother took me for a walk in a carriage. I like that. And here's my representation of me. I look like a 40-year-old there with pointy ears, like a Mr. Spock. Hey, this isn't bad for a 6-year-old. I wrote pretty neatly, too. It's amazing when I go through this art, how neat I wrote back then. My first party, I went to my grandmother's party. We put on masks, we played, and we all ate cake. So here is the party at my grandmother's house. Yep, and that's the table. This is sort of a nice representation of what her house actually looked like. Isn't that cute? So let's go to another page. My first trip, we all went to Cadillac Mountain in Maine by the seashore. We had fun. We stayed at my grandmother's nearby. We went fishing. And here's a picture of my father's 1962 Chevy pickup truck there. And he used to have these wooden little like stakes on the back of it. It was a nice little truck. So let's go here. Keep going here. There's more. YMCA camp. We made paper lanterns for parents' night. We brought hot dogs and hamburgers for the cookout, and we had a big fire. I helped gather wood. So here's my representation of being at camp. I went to YMCA day camp for a short while when I was very, very young. And here, toasting weenies. I like how this one stick has 2 weenies. Very Snoopy looking thing. This is the first time I've actually opened and looked at this artwork probably in 15 years. And there's a lot more of it here. But here, you get the idea. I'm going to show a couple more pages because this is my earliest known piece of art, and it is my life story. Kindergarten. Let's see what this says. Once we took off our shoes to get weighed. At Easter time, we made baskets. The next morning, they were filled with candy. We made huge flowers with Mrs. Smith, who was my elementary school kindergarten teacher, and that's the classroom. Remember, this is 6 years old I did this. And I did this apparently when I was in first grade or about that time. And here is Mrs. DiCarlo, my first grade teacher. In first grade, I loved Mrs. DiCarlo. Sometimes she gave us hard work. We did some painting with Mrs. Smith. I was nervous when I sang on the stage. So this is my life story up to the point of age 6. And you'll see almost everything here is signed Wolfie, Wolfgang, or Wolf. At least you know the reason. This is interesting. A lot of my artwork is representative of things like this. And I'll show you more of this type of stuff in a moment. This is glue dripped on black paper that I put pastel chalk in. I was painting representations of vision problems I was having as a child, and it mostly went away. I still have them occasionally as an adult. It's called Migraine with Aura, and I've done a painting of what I really see today. It was something I did in 2017, but you'll get an idea. So here, I was age 7, Wolf age 7, but this is interesting on the back. My grandfather took me to a wooded area in remote Maine when I was about, 7 years old, 8 years old, and there was a big stone that had this symbol on it. Now I'm going to show you a picture of it because I have a photograph of myself with this stone. Here I am at 10. This is a folder. I used to make folders to keep my art in because I was a prolific artist back then, and I used to just fold over paper. And this is what was on the stone, carved into a stone, covered in moss and lichen and everything else that must have been very, very old. And my grandfather told me it was over 500 years old, and he gave me a matching plaque with that thing on it. And it was like wood burning, and he said the plaque was over 500 years old. And I have no idea what this says, but I copied this pretty good. I have the plaque. I'll have the plaque out so everyone can see that too. It'd be nice to find out what this means, because I have no idea. But I must have copied it fairly well. There might be an error in it. But this is about the actual size of the plaque too. And the plaque is wood burning, like somebody took a hot nail or something and did the picture. So that's interesting too. So that's why some of this artwork has this, because I was fascinated by this plaque as a kid, and then going out in this wooded area and seeing it. And my one more note is that this stone that this was on, I don't think is known. It's in remote Maine, and it's on a hill. It's like a little mound, like a great big mound that's maybe 100 feet in diameter, and it's like a big half a ball sticking up out of the ground. And this is right on the top, on a big stone. This is symbol. It's carved differently than that, but it's very similar, and it has this word and some other words on like a ribbon around it. I've got photos of it, but my grandfather told me never to tell anybody where it was, and that someday whatever this was going to become very important to my life. I don't know. He said, don't ever tell anyone where it is. I know where it is, and I have a photo of it, the stone itself, but it's in rural Maine. So I presume it's something Vikings left there 500 or 700 years ago or something. So, but back to this problem I have, migraine with aura. This is what I mostly see, migraine with aura. I did this painting just to show you, because this really affected my art in the past, and it's actually still affecting it to this day. It's very sparkly, and it's very metallic. It makes everything very metallic and very reflective, like it's all metal flakes or glitter. You saw how I put some in the water there. I painted this in 2017 just to show people what it looked like at the time. It's called Migraine with Aura. There's no pain, and I hardly ever get them anymore. But when I was 7, 8 years old, about the time I went to see that mound and got that wolf plaque, I saw this a lot. And I never paid attention to something. I haven't looked at this in 10 years. And I realized that what I am seeing in those migraines with aura are those exact same symbols around this. And if you look online, a lot of people suffer from this. Search images and scintillating. It actually scintillates. It actually vibrates, and you could see it moving. It's very beautiful. And I get sort of like a little queasy feeling sometimes when it happens, but it happens like every few months. It might happen once. Then like every 4 or 5 years, I'll get like 3 or 4 times in a row, and it's quite startling. I really believe that Vincent van Gogh had this problem, because I also suffer a problem he does, and that my color is shifted somewhat yellow. I can still see some red, but that's why I paint red so bright. Everything I paint red is brilliantly red.
because my see red about half as strong as it is, and I see yellow about twice as strong. And I believe that Vincent van Gogh had the same problem. I really believe he had migraines with aura, because not only did I get this pattern, I get this other effect. This is drawings I did when I was a kid, and they should be dated, not dated with my age. So here I am at 9 years old. Sometimes my field of vision would turn into this. And this is exactly what the starry nights are. My whole field of vision will turn into this for a few minutes when I'd have these terrible migraine attacks. There's no pain, but I would get all confused and disoriented, and I would see this. And I was trying to explain it when I was a child, and the doctors didn't believe it, what I was seeing and what was happening. This is why I am so enamored with doing Starry Night paintings now, because I really believe that Vincent van Gogh and I shared this. And another thing that seemed to happen sometimes, this is 8 years old, sometimes things would look very angular. We had a cat named Fluffy, and for some reason, for moments, if I was having one of these attacks, everything turned very square, like this. So I did this in 1970. So this picture you're looking at is 50 years old. And I tried to draw it as best I could to show people what I was seeing, and they thought I was crazy at the time. It didn't last long. It wasn't that dramatic of a thing that happened. But until I just had these out now for the documentary people, I didn't realize that the little notation looking things, or the letter looking things, when I have migraine with aura, exactly matched these letters. Just never noticed it before. But after I went out to see that, after I was taken out and given the plaque, for a while, everything I was doing had very rune-looking letters, where they were like the figures I saw on this, and the letters that I saw on the that stone with that ribbon. There's like a ribbon around this figure here, right in the middle, and it had all these symbols in it. And I have the photo of it, but I was told not to show it. I might, who knows? So this is me at 9 years old. I made this for my mother. So for a short time, I was doing things, and the whole overall appearance was this. I was doing a lot of things. I was so fascinated about this because of having so many attacks when I was 7, 8, 9 years old. But they subsided. But it sort of explains why a lot of this art looks like this. And don't forget, my real first name is Wolfgang. So everything's signed Wolf or Wolfie here. So I want you to see this. But my progression here is kind of interesting, is that you will see that a lot of what I do is book-like. So here's one I did. Let's see how old I am here. Let me date it. Here, here's my signature. Here, I'm 8 years old. Look how nice my writing is at 8 years old. It's not bad, huh? But that's my whole real signature right there. 8 years old. And I did everything like little books. So if I did a drawing, I usually turned it into a story. I was so captivated by books. When I became an adult, the first thing I did was children's books, and I did a lot of them. All I wanted to do was create beautiful children's books. And I'm uncredited, most of them, because I wanted to do Disney ones, because I love Disney. And this is a folder I made. So I'm 12 years old here. So this would have been 1974. I used to make these folders to hold my art, and here is, there's Donald there. Not bad, for at the time. And this was just made as a folder, and these were recycled. Like I'd start other pictures that I didn't finish, and I would cut these up to store the art inside to keep the art from getting dirty. So this is really an art folder, but you can see my signature's changing too. I'm getting a little fancy there. So this would have been 1974 when I did this, and I would have been 14 years old. No, 12 years old. I'm 12 years old here. So it's just 1974 and I'm 12. So that's that picture. This is another picture I did from memory. This is, when I was about 8 or 9, my signature started looking like this, to sort of match these different runes. I got fascinated by what they meant, but there was no internet or anything to find out what these things mean. I still don't know what they mean. If anyone can figure it out, please tell me. But I started signing my signature for a while to look more rune-ish, to like sort of match those, because I used to have a very rounded F there. And here it's kind of flat. See, I'm getting back to my normal one, but for a while I was doing this very runic looking thing. But you can see all my stuff here looks like, it all looks like books. I took every picture I made and I stapled it to a piece of paper and I wrote a story to match it. Because I love books, and that's why I illustrated so many books when I grew up in. So this one is called Diamond, Diamond. And you'll see there are French words sprinkled in here because here it says du monde, and she lives in a sala. She lives in a sala. And that, in French, at least my grandmother would say that it means a great hall, like a big, beautiful place, almost like a palace, but a big hall for entertaining, I guess. This candle, this little girl coming out of a candle, is based on this piece of artwork my grandmother had hanging in her home in Maine, which I now have, and was painted or created by my Aunt May, who was a very famous illustrator at the time. I don't know her last name, but she's quite good, and I've never really tried to explore what her real name is, but I have about 30 of these beautiful drawings framed. So you're getting an idea. Oh, this is something I did. This is 1974, and I pulled this out because it's so remarkable. Here, Mike Mozart, 2017, Mike Mozart, 1974, how similar they look. And this is on some really old damaged canvas. I tried to clean it up, but holy crap. You know, it's amazing how my art looks so similar after all that time. I just wanted to share this with everyone because I thought you'd like to see it. And I have hundreds of pieces of artwork from that age and that vintage. This is me at 10 right here. It's not bad. Here, there's more over here. Look, I was, oh, this one's pretty good. 1976, I'd been 14. So I did this at 14 years old. This is when I was enamored with crow quill ink and pen, and I was doing a lot of this stuff. And I know someone's got water damage sitting in an attic here. And that's my real name signature. I'm getting a little less fancy as I'm getting a little older there. It's probably near the end of me actually using Wolfgang or Wolf. I stopped using it because there's a whole story. If you've seen some of my live shows, you'll understand. This is a picture when I was about 12, 13 years old. I started liking to paint women. And I started painting women like every day. And to this day, I usually start in the morning warming up to paint. This is one I did when I was 16. So when you see my Picasso looking stuff like this, I was doing that when I was 16 years old. It's my favorite style. And this is a portrait of an artist that came here in a Picasso style. But you can see why I have a lot of these pictures like this, because when I was a kid, that was my favorite way to draw and paint. It was very similar to this style that I was seeing. That thing that would happen to me where for a short period of time when I was young, everything would get very angular and squared and usually skewed. But that's a good example of it. I have a lot more of this artwork. I can't wait to show everyone the artwork, but I wanted to show you a little bit since so much of it is laid out because of this documentary that's being done right now.